Hello everyone, welcome back to the next video. In this video I will show you how to get started with shaders with React 3 Fiber and ThreeJS. So let's get started. So here you can see this particular plane which I have created. The color is defined by using shader. So let's get started on how to do this. So first I'll just close everything. All right, so first I have created a React application using Vite, but if you want you can use nextjs or tanstack start, whatever framework you are comfortable with. Then inside package.json I have installed few dependencies such as React 3 Dre, React 3 Fiber. You don't require this post processing. This was part of my other tutorial, that's why it is there. If you want you can use Tailwind as well. If you want you can use Leva. Again, we are not using Leva in this tutorial, so you can ignore it. And this is Tailwind again, and you need to install this ThreeJS dependency as well. Next you need to install @type/3, and the other dependency which you need to install is Vite plugin GLSL. So this is helping us to compile GLSL code which is used to write shaders so that Vite can understand it. So you require this particular dependency as well. Once you do that, if you are like me using Vite or whatever, like if you are using nextjs, then you will have this next.config.ts. but if you are not using Vite, you will have to search for nextjs alternative for this. Okay, so just go to vite.config.ts, and here you will have to add this particular line of import, and you need to add this GLSL function as well over here. Once that is done, go to src, and here I have created one folder called shaders. So there are two types of shaders, vertex and fragment shader. So if you see my vertex shader, so there is a lot of commented code, ignore that for now. So here we are basically creating a main function, and this is the basic code for a vertex shader. So that's what we have written over here. All right, and this is the fragment shader. Again, this is the basic code, main function, and here we are basically defining one color. So here you can see this is the red color because this is RGB value, and this is for opacity, and R is 1. That's why we are seeing a red color plane inside our output over here. Next, what you need to do inside app.tsx or whatever is your main starting point. So basically, again, ignore all this dead imports. We'll be using it, but these are all the imports for now. Then here I have defined one canvas, one environment, and here is our shader plane React component, which I will show you shortly. And here I am also using orbit controls. Next, I have defined the shader material. Okay, so by default you will have to keep it the first input as empty object. Okay, we'll later on pass some values to it. I'll talk more about it. And here we are referencing our shader vertex and shader fragment. Then for React 3 Fiber, to understand it, we have to use this extend method from React 3 Fiber and wrap this my shader fragment inside over here. Okay, then here is another React component which I have defined called shader plane. So here is our material where we are using use ref, and here is our use frame. So here again, ignore this, we will be using this later on. So here I have basically defined one mesh and one plane geometry, and here we have defined this my shader material. Again, this is giving me an error. This is related to TypeScript. So yeah, I'm not really sure how to fix it. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Okay, and this is the output you get. Now suppose if you want to change the color, you can maybe make this as 1.0 as well. Command S to save, refresh. This hot refresh or fast refresh, whatever you call it, does not really work with GLSL. You just have to refresh it, hard refresh manually. Okay, then go to app.tsx again. Let me show you a couple of things. So suppose I want to pass a value from over here, from my shader material, from this particular code to my fragment shader, right? So suppose I want to pass the value as pink. So you'll have to define a variable. You can name it anything, but typically it is something like u followed by the name color, and here I have defined it as pink color. Now how to get it inside of a fragment shader? So you'll have to define something like this. So U stands for uniform. Okay, so that's why we define uniform vec3 u color. Now I'll just comment this out. To use it, you can directly use something like this. Now if I just come over here, refresh, here you can see we are getting pink color. Okay, same way you can pass the time as well. So for time, suppose I'm passing it from over here, but I want to pass it as a prop to our material as well, from our React component as well. So you can use something like this. Okay, So here now blue will take the precedence over this particular pink. Hopefully, yeah, here you can see blue is taking precedence, so do keep that in mind. And here I have defined one ref of material, so here you can see this is the ref, and once we get the ref, I'm just updating the time. Okay, and here you can see this is the time. By default it is 0. Now I'm not really using the time. To use the time, you can go to vertex shader. Here you can see I have defined the time. Now I'll just comment this out and use this particular thing. So basically I want to move it depending on the time. Now here we also need to define, I think, speed, which is missing. So here you can define something like this: attribute float a speed. Okay, and now to move our particular plane as well, you will have to use something called buffer attribute. Now even I don't really understand buffer attribute. To pass an attribute from your JSX to GLSL, you will have to define something like this. Now ignore all this, like even I have copied this from the documentation, even I don't really understand it that much. So I'll just refresh. Here you can see now it is able to move. So hopefully you are getting the point. Now what if I want to send the value from JSX to vertex shader, and then from vertex shader to fragment shader? So in that case, so I'll just define this particular, I'll just use this. So here you can see we have another buffer attribute of a color. Okay, now I'll just come to vertex shader. Here you will have to define attribute vec a color and variable as well, varying, I think it's called variable as far as I know. And here you will have to just define v color, and here you will have to define gl position. So I'm not really using all of this, so I'll just comment this out. So here you can see first we had the value over here, right, a color. So we are sending it over here, we are assigning it to this particular variable, and then from over here we'll have to use it something like this, varying 3 v color. So to use it, now I will have to do something like this. So this is how you can send the value. I'll just refresh. Here you can see you are getting this gradient thing. Again, the color is decided because of this particular buffer attribute code. Even I don't really understand it, but this is how you can send value from JSX to your vertex shader to your fragment shader. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Thank you for watching. Bye.